what the law, the bill and the law clearly states is that the medical exemption is at the professional judgment of the physician. We took an amendment to absolutely clarify that point.
One of the things we've talked about over and over again is how important it is that there be a strong and robust medical exemption so that anybody who has a legitimate medical concern, genetic predisposition, some sort of immunological problem, they can go to a doctor anywhere in the state and get an exemption from that doctor. That's very important to me.
If a physician feels that there's a genetic association, and a sibling, a cousin, some other relative, it's not safe for vaccine, they can provide a medical exemption for that vaccine. There's no limitation. It may be family related, that therefore that child is also at increased risk, even though that child has not yet suffered harm. Then they can exercise their professional judgment to provide an exemption.
Now, as you know, the committee has offered several amendments that we're very happy to accept. They mainly relate to expanding the medical exemption, and that's something that I'm very interested in.
What they have to do is document the reason. They document the duration, which can, and there's no limitation, that could be indefinite.
And so it's important for me that doctors not be sanctioned, not be impacted for exercising their discretion in granting a medical exemption.
We've just heard from the medical board. We are not aware of any physician who's been disciplined, investigated because they provided a medical exemption, so there's no cloud hanging over them. There's nothing in the law that says that they cannot. They are perfectly free to do that, and physicians have done that before. We are trying to create the space to allow doctors and their patients and their parents to work together, hand in hand. The law in California says that a licensed physician can grant a medical exemption, and it's basically at their professional judgment. The Department of Public Health, there's no authority in the Department of Public Health to overturn that exemption. There's no place in the law that says that.
The bill limits the exemption to medical. I think all of us here who will support the bill want to make sure that that is a real exemption and to remove any potential hurdles that might be there for parents who have a real understanding that they should be allowed that exemption.
So the exemption that's in statute basically says that any licensed physician in the state of California can grant a medical exemption. And that's basically at their professional judgment. So there is no specific list of things that they can or cannot exempt for. All it takes is for a physician like myself, or even the witness here, that's in your license in the state of California, to simply write a note to the school saying that this child should not be vaccinated for either X vaccine or several vaccines for X period of time or for the rest of the life, and simply write a note, and then that will be accepted by the school. We have left that discretion to licensed physicians in the state of California, including whether it's your own physician, the specialist you're seeing, another physician. We have left that discretion open. Physicians, there's no limitation in the law. We've just heard from the medical board. We are not aware of any physician who's been disciplined, investigated because they provided a medical exemption, so there's no cloud hanging over them to be able to do this.
In the case of the gentleman who was talking about his daughter who's perfectly healthy, if the first child has a reaction, would there be a medical exemption for the second child?
So the medical exemption...
Does it clearly allow that?
So what the law, the bill and the law clearly states is that the medical exemption is at the professional judgment of the physician. We took an amendment to absolutely clarify that point. And so what that means is that if the physician feels that a sibling of a child, because the condition may be genetic, it may be family related, that therefore that child is also at increased risk, even though that child has not yet suffered harm, then they can exercise their professional judgment to provide an exemption. That is, it's the professional judgment of the physician in terms of what they believe that if the risk of the immunization is going to be such that it's going to put that child at certain or near, basically at increased harm, then they can provide that exemption. And so that's to the judgment of of actually any licensed physician in the state of California. There's no requirement that you even have to go to a physician that you've seen multiple times in the past. The law clearly states that any licensed physician in the state of California can provide a medical exemption. Mainly, what they have to do is document the reason. They document the duration, and there's no limitation to that, it could be indefinite. And they have to sign it, of course, saying that they're as a licensed physician. Then you get a medical exemption.
An amendment regarding the medical exemption in a physician's judgment. And I've heard from a number of constituents and Californians regarding concerns that a medical exemption is difficult to obtain, or was difficult to obtain. I believe that current law states that a physician has complete professional discretion over the writing of a medical exemption. However, I have asked the author to take an amendment to clarify that a medical exemption is entirely within the professional judgment of a physician. And we have agreement on that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.